Hey, welcome back. This is what I would call the first act of Oedipus. In this book that we have for world literature, it's amazing they didn't put acts in. But anyway, so Oedipus comes out of his castle, and we're going to see that everything takes place in front of his castle. And back then, in Greek theater, people were wearing masks. And it was all men who were on the stage while everybody else was partying, drinking, eating, and having sex, right? And Oedipus addresses the people, children, young sons, and daughters. Why do you sit here with your suppliant crowns? And what that means is, why are you here? What do you want from me? The town is heavy with a mingled burden of sounds and smells of groans and hymns and incense was used to cover up the smell of people's dead bodies. Because the crops are failing, the animals are dying, women are miscarrying, babies who actually do have the luck to get born, I'm not flipping you off, that's my ring finger, they're dying shortly after. I did not think it fit that I should hear of this from messengers, but came myself, Oedipus, whom all men call the Great. And he asked the priest what is going on. And if you go down into line 22, King, the priest says, you yourself have seen our city reeling like a wreck already. It can scarcely lift its prow out of the depths. So that's a ship reference. If a ship's prow goes under, that ship sinks. Out of the bloody surf, a blight is on the fruitful plants of the earth. A blight is on the cattle in the fields. A blight is on our women, that no children are born to them. And so the question is, why is this happening? And Oedipus is going to learn very quickly that the reason is happening because not only is he coming out to address the crowd like a real leader, he's already sent a messenger to Delphi to ask the gods why they're pissed off. And the reason the gods are pissed off is because the previous king's death has not been punished. And the priest talks him up, that you are the greatest in all men's eyes. And here we are falling at your feet. We all entreat you, find us some strength for rescue. Perhaps you'll hear a wise word from some god. Perhaps you'll learn something from a man. For I've seen that for the skilled of practice, the outcome of their counsels live the most. Noblest of men, go and raise up our city. Go, give heed, for now this land of ours calls you its savior, since you saved it once. So let us never speak about your reign as of a time when first our feet were set secure on high, but later fell to ruin. Raise up our city, save it, raise it up. And Oedipus replies in line 65, 66, I pity you, children, meaning all of his subjects. You have come full of longing, but I have known the story before you told it. I know you're all sick. Yet there is no one of you, sick though you are, that is as sick as myself. Now, that line right there is showing Oedipus has empathy, but also that he has blindness, because he is sickened over all the suffering of his people. And yet, sick as myself, this is a man who unwittingly is sleeping with his own biological mother and making children with her. Which is, I don't know, I say pretty fucking sick. Oh, I hope this isn't being recorded because I don't want anybody to say, he said fucking sick. Oh wait, I said it again. Never mind. Okay, and he goes on to say that his spirit groans, that he cries all the time. And he has sent Creon, his brother-in-law, to find out at Delphi from Apollo, the sun god, what is going on. And then he promises the people, may I prove a villain if I shall not do all the God commands. And we're talking about a pantheon of gods, right? He's referring to Apollo. And lo and behold, later on in the story, as the audience knew at the time, he will prove to be an unwitting villain in his own life. He's tried his best to escape his destiny, but that's not how fate works. And Creon comes in about line 107. I will tell you then what I heard from the god. King Phoebus, meaning Apollo, in plain words commanded us to drive out a pollution from our land, pollution grown and grained within the land. Drive it out, said the god, not cherish it till it's past cure. And Oedipus says, what is the rite of purification? How shall we do this? And his brother-in-law says, by banishing a man or expiation of blood by blood, since it is murder guilt which holds our city in this destroying storm. The murderer of the previous king needs to be executed. And Oedipus asks very naively, who is this man whose fate the god pronounces? So who has been sentenced to death? And Creon says, my lord, before you piloted the state, we had a king called Laius. Yeah, I know him by hearsay. I've not seen him. Can you imagine that? Like, you marry somebody who's already been married, and someone mentions the previous spouse's name. You're like, yeah, I've heard about him, but I don't really know him. Well, you don't have to know him, because you've already heard. You've already heard from who you're sleeping with. The god commanded clearly, Creon says, let someone punish with force this dead man's murderers. Well, where are they in this world? Where would a trace of this old crime be found? It would be hard to guess where. And this is where the play becomes a whodunit, because now Oedipus is a detective. The clue is in this land. That which is sought is found. The unheeding thing escapes, so said the god. And we learn that, the king got killed when he was out traveling, and Oedipus replies in about line 133, was there no messenger, no fellow traveler who knew what happened? Such a one might tell something of use. And Creon says, they were all killed, save one. Except for one. We always have to have one person in a crime show that knows what's happening. He fled in terror, and he could tell us nothing in clear terms of what he knew. Nothing but one thing only, and what was that? This man said that the robbers they encountered were many, and the hands that did the murder were many. It was no man's single power. All right, so you have a witness, and as I told you before, Oedipus killed all of them except for one. And when that one got back, he saw who was king and asked to be sent far away to guard the flocks. And he lied about there being many. No, it was Oedipus being angry, just like his father, who hit him on the face, and he, not knowing it was his father, he killed him and all of his servants. Okay, and then there's this reference to the Sphinx that Oedipus has already saved them from, because he figured it out. 4, 2, and 3. And Oedipus promises in line 155, I will bring this to light again. King Phoebus, meaning Apollo, the god, fittingly took this care about the dead, and you too fittingly and justly You will see me an ally, a champion of my country, and the god Phoebus. For when I drive pollution from the land, I will not serve a distant friend's advantage, but act on my own interest. And then now, very ironically, he pronounces a sentence. Whoever he was that killed the king may readily wish to dispatch me with his murderous hand. So, helping the dead king, I help myself, which is not the case. Later on in this play, his wife/mother is going to try to talk him out of it. Now, shortly, the blind prophet will try to talk him out of it. Now, in Greek theater, we have what's called the chorus. And what that is a group of actors talking in unison. And what they say reflects, typically, the feelings of the community. And it's kind of creepy sometimes, because imagine 10 or 15 people chanting the same lines. And so the chorus comments, and says in line 182, First I call upon you, Athena, deathless daughter of Zeus, and Artemis, earth upholder, who sits in the midst of the marketplace in the throne which men call fame, and Phoebus/Apollo, the far shooter. Apollo, it gave humans the bow and arrow. 3 averters of fate. But see, this play is asking that question. Can you really avert fate? And in Greek religion, even the gods were subject to the fates. And in line 189, our sorrows, the chorus says, our sorrows defy number. All the ship's timbers are rotten. Taking of thought is no spear for the driving away of the plague. There are no growing children in this famous land. There are no women bearing the pangs of childbirth. You may see them, one with another, like birds swift on the wing, quicker than fire unmastered, speeding away to the coast of the western god. And then the chorus continues, in the unnumbered deaths of the people, of its people, the city dies. We're talking about a plague upon this entire city. And the people are crying out for the one man who has saved them the first time to save them again. It's a pretty big mug, right? Down in line 225, Oedipus says, for what you ask me, if you'll hear my words, and hearing welcome them and fight the plague, you will find strength and lightening of your load. Hark to me, what I say to you, I say, as one that is a stranger to the story, which is ironic, and people would laugh at that. If you have an actor, they already know what his fate is. And he's saying, I'm a stranger to the story. I don't know what my story is, or the one you just told me. A stranger to the deed, for I would not be far upon the track if I alone were tracing it without a clue. So now we get the kind of Sherlock Holmes thing going on. We need clues. And he says down in line 149, 249, I forbid that man, the one who did it, whoever he be, my land where I hold sovereignty and throne, and I forbid any welcome to him, or cry him greeting, or make him a share in sacrifice, or offering to the gods, or give him water for his hands to wash. I command all to drive him from their homes, since he is our pollution. And so, in line 260, he says, upon the murderer I invoke this curse, which, ironically, he is cursing himself. Whether he is one man and all unknown, or one of many men, may he wear out his life in misery to miserable doom. If with my knowledge he lives at my hearth, which he does, he lives right by his fireplace, because that's where Oedipus is, I pray that I myself may feel my curse. So in effect, Oedipus curses himself. Later on in lines 273, he says, since I am now the holder of that former king's office, and have his bed, and his wife, that once was his, and had his line not been unfortunate, we would have common children. See, the problem is that he is the original motherfucker. And so not only do he and his father have common children, he's the child of his father, and his mother/wife has given birth to 4 children, 2 boys, 2 girls. And then Oedipus pledges in line 278, I fight in his offense, the dead king, as I would for my own father, which he is. And I shall try all means to take the murder of Laius, and he says, those who do not obey me, may the gods grant no crops springing from the ground they plow, nor children to their women. And in ancient times, and this is Old Testament, this is Grecian, the idea of plowing the fields, making the earth fertile, was used as a euphemism for sex. For example, in the Old Testament, if you remember, Samson was the most strong man. He was the first superhero in Western culture. Well, Hercules was one of the first too. But he was the first in Judeo-Christian culture, which all of these combined to become Western. He was the strongest man. He had long hair. He could do anything. And he let his wife Delilah know that my strength, and this is not why I have long hair, because we're talking much longer than this, but my strength lies in my hair. If they ever cut it off, I won't be strong anymore. And she tells people who want to harm Samson, and the first thing he says when he wakes up and his hair is gone, you must have been plowing my fields. Meaning, you must have been having sex with my wife. The chorus talks about calling on the gods to change everything, and Oedipus reminds them in line 294. Right, but to put compulsion on the gods against their will, no man can do that. You can beg the gods for all you want, but you can't force the gods to do anything. Okay, so now we're going to have Tiresias show up, and he is a blind prophet who Oedipus is going to pick on. He's going to mock his blindness, and which is too bad because Tiresias actually sees everything. And why? Because what is Oedipus' tragic flaw? One of them is that he himself is blind to himself. So that's one of the things we can take away from this play, is that it is important to know yourself. Not just what others say about you, but what you believe in, what you stand for, what your values are, what you are doing. Know yourself. Do not be blinded to yourself. And at first, Oedipus congratulates Tiresias, or praises him, and this is in line 3:17. Tiresias, you are versed in everything, things teachable and things not to be spoken, things of heaven and earth creeping things. You have not eyes, but in your mind you know with what a plague our city is afflicted. So he's giving him credit, right? And he asks him in line 332, save yourself in the city, save me, redeem the debt of our pollution. And since Tiresias already knows that Oedipus is the criminal that he is hunting himself, he does not want to speak. And why? Because apparently this blind old man doesn't want to die, and he doesn't want to upset the order of things, even though the entire nation is dying. And Tiresias says in line 138, alas, how terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the man that is wise. And Oedipus says, why are you so sad? What has happened? And Tiresias replies to him, let me go home. It will be easiest for us both. So right here, Oedipus gets warned the first time. You don't want to know. You do not want to know the truth. And Oedipus is irate in line 344. You would rob us of your gift of prophecy? You talk as though you are one who had no care for law nor love for thieves. Who reared you? And Tiresias agrees. He says, yes, but I see that even your own words miss the mark. Therefore, I must fear for mine, meaning my words. For God's sake, if you know of anything, do not turn from us, because Tiresias has started to walk away. All of us kneel to you, all of us here, your suppliants. And so Oedipus is begging Tiresias to tell him the truth. And Tiresias says, all of you here know nothing, and I will not bring to the light of day my troubles. Mine, really I should call them your troubles. Well, what do you mean? You know of something but refuse to speak? Would you betray us and destroy the city? I will not bring this pain upon us both, neither on you nor on myself. Why is it you question me and waste your labor? I will tell you nothing. And Oedipus is full of wrath, and he says, tell us, you villain, tell us. Do not stand there quietly. And Tiresias cautions him about his temper. Because who had a big temper? Oedipus' father. Who inherited a big temper? Oedipus too. You blame my temper, but you do not see your own that lives within you. It is me you chide. And then Oedipus tells him in line 374, indeed, I am so angry I shall not hold back a jot of what I think. And a jot is just a dot before a J. Just a period used in grammar in different languages. A jot or tittle. A tittle is the curved line over letters, so you know how to pronounce them, as in Spanish, with the ñ, with the N, with the tittle. And then Oedipus goes on, because he's angry, he says, I think you were complotter of the deed and doer of the deed. So he accuses this prophet, this blind prophet, of killing the king. And Tiresias says, yes, then I warn you faithfully to keep the letter of your proclamation, and from this day forth to speak no word of greeting to these nor me. And he looks at him in the eye and says, you are the land's pollution. Meaning, you are the murderer. Think about this. If you're a king who's trying to solve a murder and you get told you need to look no further, the murderer is you. And this is why your people suffer. This is a bad move in a way, right? Telling a king to his face in front of a crowd of people, you are the murderer. You are the land's pollution. And Oedipus is getting angrier and says, how shamelessly you started up with this taunt. How do you think you'll escape? And Tiresias is calm because he knows who he is. He sees himself even though he is blind. He says, I have escaped. The truth is what I cherish, and that is my strength. Now, if you're familiar with the Judeo-Christian tradition, you'll recall the line where Jesus said, and the truth shall make you free. That was not a new idea. That was an aphorism, a saying of wisdom, that truth is better than lies. Reality better than fiction. And Oedipus says, who taught you truth? Surely not your profession. And now my beagle is chiming in on this. My daughter's beagle. And Tiresias says, you have taught me, for you have made me speak against my will. Speak what? Tell me again that I may learn it better. Did you not understand before, or would you provoke me into speaking? And Oedipus, playing dumb, says, I didn't understand what you said. I did not grasp it. Say it again. I say, you are the murderer of the king whose murderer you seek. Not twice you shall say calumnies like this and stay unpunished. Shall I say more to tempt your anger more? As much as you desire, it will be said in vain. I say that with those you love best. So here's number 3 time that the prophet Tiresias has revealed the truth to Oedipus, and he refuses to see it. I say with those you love best, you live in foolish shame, unconsciously, and do not see where you are in calamity. Do you imagine you can always talk like this and live to laugh at it hereafter? Yes, if the truth has anything of strength. It has, but not for you. It has no strength for you because you are blind in mind and ears as well as in your eyes. So, this is the let's beat up on the dude with disabilities. Why? Because the dude with disabilities doesn't tell us what we want to hear. So let's just join in and mock him. Tiresias doesn't follow the bait. He doesn't take it. He says, you, right to the king, are a poor wretch to taunt me with the very insults which everyone will soon heap upon yourself. So you can call me all those things, but soon that's what people will be saying about you, because you are blind. And Oedipus says, your life is one long night so that you cannot hurt me or anyone who sees the light. I saw the light. Oedipus hasn't. And Tiresias counters, it is not fate that I should be your ruin. Apollo, the god, is enough. It is his care to work this out. Was this your own design? And now Oedipus is going to go on and accuse Tiresias of acting in league with his brother-in-law to overthrow him from his power in the kingdom, which is absolutely ridiculous because his brother-in-law, Creon, is a good person. And as he will say in the upcoming act, he will tell him, look, why would I want to have the power of the king when you already share it 1/3 with me? You? your wife, my sister, and me. I don't have to stay up at night worrying about things. Why would I want that burden? But Oedipus is blind to that as well, because he's not getting the answers that he wants. And maybe you're familiar with people who do this, who, if they don't get the answer they want, then they lash out, they name call, they accuse. And the chorus responds to Oedipus after him verbally beating up on the prophet in lines 447. We look at this man's word and yours, my king, and we find both have spoken them in anger. We need no angry words, but only thought, how we may best hit the God's meaning for us. Let's think about the last time that you were angry and having an argument. Did anything get learned during the argument? Did you convince the person you were arguing with? Probably not. Probably not. So we need to find the truth. And Tiresias says in lines 452, if you are a king, at least I have the right no less to speak in my defense against you. Of that much I am master. I am no slave of yours. So I will not enroll myself with Cretan for my patron. Since you have taunted me with being blind, here is my word for you. Okay, since you've made fun of me, here is what the prophet Tiresias pronounces. You have your eyes, but see not where you are in sin, nor where you live, nor whom you live with. Meaning, you are blind. Which later on in Western culture, Jesus will say, you see, but you are blind. You hear, but you are deaf. And then he goes on to goad him with, do you know who your parents are? And Tiresias goes on to talk about there's a secret in Oedipus' marriage, and there is a grim equality, meaning incest, that's going on between you and your children. You know nothing. Misery shall grind no man as it will you. So imagine a stone wheel that grinds grain into flour, and you can pass the flour through again and again and grind it finer and finer. Eventually it wears the flour down. Imagine that stone as being misery. And that's what Tiresias is saying will happen to Oedipus. And Oedipus tells him, home with you, out of my house. And Tiresias says in line 481, I would not have come either had you not called me. I wouldn't be here to tell you the truth if you hadn't sent for me. And Oedipus says, I did not know then you would talk like a fool. And Tiresias acquiesces and says, I am a fool then, as it seems to you, but to the parents who bred you, I am wise. What parents? Stop. Who are they of all the world? This day will show you your birth, and it will destroy you. Oedipus can't let this go, and so Tiresias ends up telling him in lines 498, there is no way you can hurt me. I tell you, king, this man, this murderer, whom you have declared you're in search of, indicting him in threatening proclamation as murder of Laius, that man is here. In name, he's a stranger among citizens, but soon He will be shown to be a citizen, true native Theban, and he'll have no joy of the discovery. He'll have blindness for sight, beggary for riches. He will go through his life tapping with a stick. He shall be proved father and brother both to his own children in his house, to her who gave him birth, a son and husband both, a fellow sower in his father's bed, with the same father that he murdered. Go within and think about that, reckon it, and if you find me mistaken, say I have no skill in prophecy. And then the chorus is going to come in, and we hear images of strong feet and lonely feet. Oedipus itself means swollen feet. Why? Because his dad not only broke his feet when he was a toddler, but put metal through the tendons in his feet. So if you were casting this play, you wouldn't have Oedipus just walk normally. This would be someone for whom walking itself is painful. Because even after all those years, those injuries catch up to you. And so now that Oedipus has accused his brother-in-law of conspiring to overthrow him, has told the prophet that he is blind and made fun of his disability, his brother-in-law is going to show up. And he will defend himself. And that is where Act 2 starts. Thank you. Think about the idea of jumping to conclusions just because the information you get isn't what you want to hear. Doesn't mean you have to lash out or name call or say that somebody is against you when they're trying their very best to tell you the truth.